Acorn TV, proud sponsor of Just Seen It, offers hundreds of hours of British mysteries, dramas, and comedies streaming commercial-free on demand. Learn more at acorn.tv/PTV. On this episode of Just Seen It, we review the futuristic love story, Her.
It's easy to see why people want Scarlett Johansson to be nominated for an Academy Award, even though you never ever see her on screen.
The animated adventure, Walking with Dinosaurs.
This film blends live footage with CGI dinosaurs beautifully.
The family drama, August, Osage County.
Seriously, when is Meryl Streep not gonna get nominated for an Oscar? It's not gonna be this year.
And the return of the Crawley family in Season 4 of Downton Abbey.
One of the strengths of the season is that Mary's arc becomes the spine of the show.
All right here on Just Seen It. Ted is a quiet introvert who writes love letters for a living. When he buys a new operating system, he forges an unusual friendship.
How long before you're ready to date?
What do you mean?
I saw in your emails that you'd gone through a breakup.
But as he overcomes his personal demons, he realizes he is falling in love. In Her.
Hi, I'm Zoriana.
I'm Kevin.
And I'm Salim, and we're here to talk about the new Spike Jonze movie, Her. We've all just seen it. Kevin, take it away.
We always get something very unique from Spike Jonze, which is what I appreciate, and this is no exception here. What I liked about it was that it was a very perceptive look at how we go about looking for relationships and the different ways we can find relationships. We all have talked to people online and have established some sort of relationship, and I think this kind of takes that to another level.
That's what I really loved about it. I thought it was very plausible, especially the character of Her, or Samantha, played by Scarlett Johansson. Her character was so realistic and so lived in that I felt like I understood why this character would fall in love with her.
I thought it was just a great look at how we live our relationships, how we might want to live them, and how with the use of technology we can actually construct the ideal relationships. Movies have explored that before, but never in such a realistic manner where you can actually see that happening on the horizon.
Joaquin Phoenix is great here. He carries the entire movie. He's in every single scene. There are some movies where I'm not particularly a fan of his, but in this one, I really warmed up to him. I thought he was just so genuine and heartfelt that he really won me over.
I think because we're so used to seeing him in roles that are a little more explosive, a little more showy, whether it's Gladiator or Walk the Line or The Master. But here he was so vulnerable, so human. I think this is the first time I actually related to him on screen as a human being as opposed to that actor.
Yeah, this is definitely his most toned down performance, and it's incredible to see him so adeptly fall into each character that he plays, because each character is so different from the last. His character as of Freddy from The Master compared to this, it's night and day difference. For sure. And I think it's incredible to see him fall into these different characters the way that he does.
A lot of credit to his performance is that he had a co-star that sort of drew that out of him. And this co-star, unfortunately, does not get credit for the film, and that is Samantha Morton.
Exactly.
She was the original voice of the OS, and she got replaced by Scarlett Johansson in post-production. But during filming, Samantha Morton was on the set. She was there. She was someone for him to bounce off of, and partial credit for his wonderful performance has to go to her for helping elicit that from him.
When I learned that, because I didn't know that going into it, it did take away a little bit for me.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because knowing then that they just kind of replaced her with somebody else, what Scarlett Johansson was doing had no effect on what Joaquin Phoenix's performance was. And that, now I look back and I feel like there's a disconnect, even though I liked both of them, but now I have to almost look at them separately.
As much credit as Samantha Morton deserves for eliciting this amazing performance from Joaquin, I think as much credit has to be given to Scarlett Johansson for taking on this role, because she's the one who sat in a voice booth without any of the stimulation that you would get from being on the set. And that is difficult to pull off. And she managed to create a character with a full arc. And she makes it so believable that you forget that she's not physically there.
From the first moment that we meet her, the operating system, they immediately connect and they're immediately talking as if she's a regular person. And I think that that's honestly because of Scarlett Johansson. She has such an easygoing voice and such an easygoing timbre to her, the way she talks.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
I know what you mean. Last week, my feelings were hurt by something you said before, that I don't know what it's like to lose something, and I found myself...
I'm sorry I said that.
No, it's okay, it's okay. I caught myself thinking about it over and over, and then I realized that I was simply remembering it as something that was wrong with me. That was a story I was telling myself, that I was somehow inferior.
Her is Spike Jonze's most personal work to date. It's his most mature work. It still has that quirkiness of being John Malkovich or adaptation, but there's a quality here that just goes deeper than some of his previous films.
I completely agree with you. There are some scenes in here that are so organic in terms of the dialogue that I knew that they were lifted from certain conversations that he's had with people. And I think that really is what makes this film very realized, because it has this future aesthetic to it, but it's always grounded. It's always showing us stuff that's familiar, but then also showing us stuff that's new and different.
It would be easy to make fun of this story. And I think, judging by people's reactions, I know people I know have seen the trailer like, that just seems silly. But he really believes in the story, and he believes in the characters, and he takes it very seriously, and I appreciate that.
Her is Spike Jonze's most relatable, most heartfelt film without sacrificing any of his quirkiness and creativity. See it.
Not everything worked for me, but it's original, it's honest, and it's unlike anything you've ever seen before, so I say see it.
It's as inspiring as it is fully realized. Emotional, intriguing, and altogether very different. See it.
Cheers to her.
To her.
Oh, wait, to me? Oh, thank you.
Millions of years ago, a trio of dinosaurs are born. As they enter adulthood, Patchy, Scowler, and Juniper begin the long journey of migration.
Now, it was my turn to be in charge.
Along the way, they encounter new friends and a dangerous predator. In Walking with Dinosaurs.
Hi, I'm Salim.
I'm Jamie.
And I'm Brenna, and today we're here to talk about Walking with Dinosaurs, the new film from Fox Studios. We've all just seen it. Who wants to start us off?
Great computer animation. They mixed computer animation with live action sequences that they shot. The 3D looks great. There's no story.
Yeah.
There is no story. Completely misused the narration. They did voiceover narration, so the dinosaurs aren't talking to each other, but you're hearing what they're saying. Terrible.
It's
terrible.
They tried to have a story, and they tried to have dialogue, but it doesn't work. You have two narrator characters, and they switch off without warning. You don't know who's narrating.
Justin Long,
and
he's a dinosaur, and John Leguizamo.
And they talk to each other as well as narrate independently. And with the fact that the dinosaurs' mouths don't move, you can't tell if it's narration or if it's dialogue or who's narrating and who's talking, and it can get confusing even for the adults.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
I'm pretty sure.
Are you ready?
Hit me!
All right!
I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And compounding on that, there's this awkward intro and ending that has Carl Urban for some reason.
Completely pointless.
Unnecessary, yeah.
I mean, let's just talk about what his part in the story is. He plays some paleontologist with a niece and a nephew that is going to find some bones. And then his nephew starts talking to some bird. It doesn't make any sense, especially considering that we're talking about Walking with the Dinosaurs and not these other characters.
You can fix this movie by cutting the bookend scenes with Carl Urban, who I love, but has no point to be in this movie.
He's not good at all.
And then you do a voiceover narration with like a Morgan Freeman style March of the Penguins.
Exactly, and that would have been great and unique.
That would be something I'd want to watch.
Exactly, because March of the Penguins is real penguins, whereas this one we have CGI dinosaurs that actually look real.
It looked fantastic. I mean, you don't know if they're not. Yeah, totally gorgeous. The 3D really works.
this was originally a British production that was more so like what you were
BBC
saying.
Earth, yeah.
Exactly. And for whatever reason, they decided to add in all this Carl Urban
It's
and
American
story.
version. We gotta get
John
the
Leguizamo,
bones in
Justin
here.
Long.
There has to be a love story.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there's no stakes. There's some drama that you think is going to be dramatic, but then the narrator goes, "Hey guys, the scary dramatic part's coming up."
And do you
It was
care about the
obtrusive.
characters?
No, you
I mean,
don't
do you care
care.
about
I mean,
Patchy or whatever his name is?
The journey was interesting at times, but it was probably because we were able to see this landscape, we were able to
beautiful.
see the journey that he was going on. But anytime the dialogue was coming in, especially when they were trying to be funny, it just was so flat.
Well, and
every
Leguizamo
joke.
was doing the
He was,
Leguizamo thing.
exactly.
Allow me to congratulate you on this happiest of occasions. As far as names go, may I suggest, Alex? It means ridiculously handsome bird.
Well, Leguizamo is a great comedian.
Right.
And not even he could save this dialogue.
And he's a great character actor.
He
but
is.
yeah, it's
and
just not.
the funniest part of the movie is a John Leguizamo bit.
Exactly.
Other than that, they have all these jokes. There's 5 or 6 different poop jokes. Not one works. And we saw this in a theater half with
full of
kids.
Full of kids, yeah.
If you can't make a kid laugh at a poop joke, you're doing something
The one
very
thing
wrong.
that it does almost kind of work, or at least I understand what they were going for, is the educational value.
Exactly.
So when we would meet a new dinosaur, a new creature, there would be this sort of educational, here's what this is. And, you know, and I mean, I appreciate that, but it just didn't work with the storyline.
It clashed
with
with
the
trying to
plot.
have a story.
Yeah,
If they
yeah.
had done it as an educational narration type thing, it would have worked.
Well, if anything, this movie, I couldn't wait for Jurassic World because obviously our technology has come to such a point where dinosaurs look very real. So I'm glad at least I got to see that part of it.
Should we talk about the dinosaur in the room?
Yeah.
Who wants to talk about
Go ahead.
dinosaur
You bring it up.
rape?
You're really
bring it up.
excited
Go ahead.
about it.
Well, I mean, there is just there's a moment in the film that you just are like, I can't believe they did this in a kid's movie.
Yeah.
Where the brother is sort of fighting with the lead character to be the lead alpha male of the clan.
The herd.
Right, the herd.
herd, yeah.
And basically when he beats his younger brother up and takes his girlfriend off and shags her, as they would say in London.
And she doesn't. She's totally not down for it.
Right.
But she's doing it because there's this theme of following the rules. We do things because we follow the rules. But then they come in with this monogamous love story.
I mean,
that
she does everything but
crashes-
say no. I don't want to go with you. And then at the end of the movie, she has kids and is now married to our lead character, and he thinks they're his kids. But I mean, and obviously, no kid, no child is going to get this. It's all going to be over their head. But for an adult, I'm like, what is
Well,
this?
that's
It was
them
really awkward when it
again
happened.
trying to have their cake and eat it too.
Dinosaur rape.
They wanted to have the realism with obviously what would happen if the brother actually beat the brother, but then they try to have the love story that came in,
Yeah, you
which
can't
and
have
so
a
they're
love
having both of
story
them because it just
with-
doesn't work.
You can't have a love story with herd mentality where you have an alpha male and 10 females.
You can't have dinosaur rape. I'm sorry. It just was not. It was just inappropriate for the
with
film.
the kids movie.
It was inappropriate for the film.
An interesting mix of CGI and live action that some kids might enjoy, even though their parents will be bored and nostalgic for The Land Before Time. Skip it.
Kids may be mildly entertained, but parents will be bored to death. If your kids demand that you take them, make the babysitter do it. Skip it.
The computer animation and the 3D are brilliant, but the story and the narration are completely misguided. I say skip it.
Cheers.
To celebrate the release of American Hustle, David O. Russell's new film that takes place in the 1970s, I wanted to recommend another 1970s film that has one of the best soundtracks ever, Boogie Nights.
Everyone's blessed with one special thing. I want you to know I plan on being a star. A big, bright, shining star.
Eddie Adams from Torrance.
Yep.
Jack Horner, filmmaker. I make exotic pictures.
In 1977, a kid from nowhere.
Maybe think about your name.
My name, yeah.
Something a little pizzazz.
Dirk Diggler.
Good name. I like your name a lot.
Not only is Paul Thomas Anderson's 1997 film a masterpiece in postmodern cinema, it also boasts one of the best soundtracks comprised of 60s, 70s, and 80s music. Some of my favorites include Spill the Wine, God Only Knows, Sister Christian, and Boogie Shoes. American Hustle, now in theaters, sports a similar soundtrack with throwback songs, including artists like Elton John, Donna Summer, and the Bee Gees. So go check out American Hustle, and then come home and watch Boogie Nights for a full-fledged musical overdose.
Gravely ill, Violet's husband suddenly goes missing.
Dear Lord, we ask that you watch over this family in this sad time, oh Lord.
so her extended family arrives to help search for him.
You don't eat meat of any kind?
When you eat meat, you ingest an animal's fear.
Ingest what? Its fur?
But old wounds resurface and challenge their bonds. In August, Osage County.
Hi, I'm Aaron.
I'm Rachel.
And I'm Kevin, and we're here today to talk about August, Osage County. We've all just seen it. Aaron, take it away.
It's adapted by Tracy Letts, who also wrote the source material. It's a Pulitzer Prize-winning play. Tracy Letts has written other plays that have been adapted into films like Bug and Killer Joe. This is a familial drama. Everybody's getting together to commemorate the life of somebody who has died. And then there's drama because the family is just not functional.
They're closeted.
Yeah, they're a
They don't talk about
dysfunctional
their
family.
issues.
It's very clear that they don't talk about their issues. Not to mention that they have a pretty despicable matriarch leading the family.
Most of the people in this movie
they're-
are pretty despicable.
Yeah.
It almost feels like a Tennessee Williams play in a way. It's got this like very old-fashioned classical feel that is.
It feels like a play. It feels like a play for adults about a familial dysfunction.
Which was my problem. Now, I actually saw the play, and it felt like a greatest hits version of the play, because the play is 3 hours long with 2 intermissions. So it was really long, and this was 2 hours.
So it had to be
So
a
it
greatest
just felt
hits
like they were
version.
kind of going one to one to one. It feels like you said, you're watching a play. They move into another location, and then they talk for 10 minutes, and then they move to another location,
Yeah,
and they
I
talk for
thought,
10 minutes.
I mean, I was worried about that, especially in the very beginning. It starts out with almost what seems like a monologue.
Yeah.
And then the camera angle shifts, and you realize, okay, it's a little more clever than that. And so from that first moment, I was worried that this might feel too stagey, but I thought, partly because the writer is the same writer of the play, I thought it did do pretty well at being adapted into a film.
Only a couple times did it really
Yeah.
waver. I noticed, the dinner scene, when they all sit down to have a meal. It's very clear that this is a scene out of a play.
I mean, that's the thing, is that scene is the centerpiece of the entire
Oh,
play.
yeah. Oh,
But
yeah.
I didn't feel that with this movie, and it's also hilarious when you see it.
I thought it
This was just disturbing.
You ever been married before?
Yes, ma'am, I have.
More than once?
3 times, actually. 3 times before this.
Should pretty well have it down by now then.
Right.
Yeah, I had that one pegged, didn't I? I mean, you look at him. You can tell he's been married.
So we should talk about Meryl Streep, who is the matriarch of the film. Personally, I like Meryl Streep, and I think she's a fantastic actress, clearly. I felt she was a little acty here. With Iron Lady, for example, she really immersed herself into that character. And here, I always felt like I'm seeing Meryl Streep acting. She's got the little wig on, and she's, doing kind of these clever little mannerisms.
She's got a lot going on, so you have a very big character. So when you're trying to portray someone that big, it's hard to really do a naturalistic job.
Right.
So I feel like most of the time she does hit her mark, but sometimes it does just go over a little bit into what would probably work perfectly on stage.
Right.
And maybe is a tiny bit too big for film.
The highest point of drama was when Meryl Streep's character basically explained how hard her life was and how everything she did to them wasn't nearly as bad as what she had done to her. She's so stuck in her ways, and it's about these generational gaps, and it was fascinating.
Well, I have an Indian in my house.
You have a problem with Indians, Violet?
I don't know what to say to an Indian.
They're called Native Americans, Mom.
Who makes that decision?
It's what they like to be called.
They aren't any more native than me.
In fact, they are.
What's wrong with Indians?
Why can't you just call people what they want to be called?
Let's just call the dinosaurs Native Americans while we're at it.
Well, there's solid direction from John Wells, too, our director. I liked it a lot. There's good angles, there's lots of long takes.
He did a fantastic job here, especially working with all these A-listers.
I had a problem with tone. The tone seemed to be like, I don't know if I'm going to try to be wacky or we're trying to be really hard hitting. And the dinner scene ended up being like, you can see by the studio that the poster is a still from that scene.
Yeah,
where
and, she's on the ground.
And it's like this isn't a wacky comedy. That was a terrible. That was really a hard hitting scene.
Call. That was
so
a bad
I don't
call on the
understand.
marketing, though.
But I feel like the director didn't quite know the tone either, because there's a lot of stuff that seemed to be like it was supposed to be funny, but it just didn't play on screen because it looked too grim and realistic.
Why don't you wear makeup?
Do I need makeup?
Every woman needs makeup. Don't let anybody tell you different. The only woman pretty enough to go without makeup was Elizabeth Taylor, and she wore a ton.
I don't know. I mean, if you're looking to compare this movie to something like Steel Magnolias, yeah, the tones are different, and maybe John Wells didn't do the right thing with the tone, but the tone worked fine for me. It's an equal amount of serious and funny. There's maybe a moment where you don't know.
I guess when it's switching over from dramatic to comedic, maybe it's unclear. But I did like the comedic parts. You know, I did think that the humor worked well. They have some ridiculous arguments, which I thought were quite funny.
I don't think it works as well on screen as it did on the stage, but for fans of the playwright and for the cast, I would say stream it.
This is a well-made drama that's going to get a lot of awards attention, and it already has. It's quite wonderful. I say see it.
This is not a new story, but it's very well told with an exceptional cast. See it.
So our votes add up to 2.5 tickets, which is a see it for August Osage County. Cheers.
Cheers. Who's going to say something?
The Crawley family grieves the tragic death of Matthew.
You must choose either death or life.
But with new suitors and new business prospects, their lives are tested. And as the world around them changes, they try to maintain their legacy in Season 4 of Downton Abbey.
Hi, I'm Liz.
I'm Kevin.
And I'm Sean. Next up, we're going to talk about the 4th season of Downton Abbey, which is airing on PBS. We've all just seen it. Liz, tell me what you thought.
Well, we've only seen the first 4 episodes, but I think it's enough to give us a real taste of the show. In my opinion, the show's been steadily declining since the first season, but I can't get away because I love the characters so much. And Downton Abbey fans, I don't think they'll be disappointed by Season 4.
Julian Fellowes is the showrunner. He's the writer or co-writer on every single episode of this show. It's a lot of work, and he puts it forth, and he does an excellent job. He's also a member of Parliament, which is
crazy.
That's wild.
He's got a lot to keep on his plate, but he's a fantastic writer. Of course, he won an Oscar for writing Gosford Park that Robert Altman directed.
The season starts off 6 months after the last season ended with Matthew's untimely demise. And I liked how they continued the emotional through line of what has been going on. With before, it seems like they've jumped like a year at a time, and it's just been too much of a shock. But here, it just seems like a continuation of last season.
What does his lordship think?
Lord Grantham thinks his duty is to protect Mary and her son by managing everything himself.
And he won't listen to you on the subject.
He sees her as a little woman who shouldn't be troubled by anything so harsh as reality.
Well, but I do feel that if you don't have Season 3 fresh in your head, you might have a little trouble easing into Season 4. I had to sort of go, wait a minute, who is this person and what just happened?
I find it really compelling. It's been soapy since the first season.
Yes.
I don't know why people keep on saying this, but I think this one is just as compelling, just as soapy.
It's not so much the soapy factor for me as I just think that eventually they sort of run out of little subplots that they can do, and Julian Fellowes is having a hard time, just like any TV show falls into these problems where what can we do with these characters that we already have? I think the characters are still extremely rich, as they've always been, but the storytelling is less so as the show has gone on.
The characters that are still there are rich. Julian Fellowes took all the criticisms of the show and addressed them. So it's like, Anna and Mr. Bates, I love them more than anything in the world, but they are a little bit boring as a couple.
But not this season.
Not this season. It's crazy.
No,
it's crazy.
It's so good.
Inject some drama in there, yes.
Then there's a lot of, the show suffered a lot of criticism for saying it's a very white show.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well, let's bring in a black character of Jack, the band leader. So it's interesting the way he's addressing all these criticisms.
The trouble is, I have no need for a butler. These days, I'm just an old widow who eats off a tray.
I see.
Just because you're an old widow, I see no necessity to eat off a tray.
You and I are different.
My favorite on the show has always been Maggie Smith, because Maggie Smith is fantastic. She's the real star, and she nails every scene that she's in. She's delightful, she's funny, she's witty. She's fantastic.
Well, but Michelle Dockery, who plays Mary.
She's the breakout.
It's like she's finally coming out and with the untimely departure of a certain romantic partner. Okay, since Matthew has died, Mary is...
in a car crash. Let's just get it out there.
Mary's become the spine of the show, and she's really coming out of her shell, and I really enjoy that arc because with the departure of so many beloved characters, you need something to latch onto.
Right, and she, it's funny because she does that kind of arc with getting over, the loss of her husband.
Yeah.
But then she literally kind of gets her nose into almost everybody's storylines at some point,
Nice.
which is nice because she's like the audience surrogate. Like she's our backbone. I like her.
I wonder how Edith's getting on. She has quite a London life these days.
She's seeing that publisher.
Is it serious?
Well, he's not bad looking, and he's still alive, which puts him 2 points ahead of most men of our generation.
What I liked about the cinematography this year is that it seemed to be a little bit more technical and a little bit more elaborate. You have the camera kind of moving in and out of characters just in like a drawing room. But I thought that was really effective, and I was really impressed with it.
Yeah, I mean, the show has always looked fantastic. Highclere Castle, which serves as Downton Abbey, is just like, can you get a better location than that for anything? And never once do you get the sense that you're watching 21st century cast and crew make something that takes place in the 20s. It feels so authentic, even so that it almost feels like Julian Fellowes is writing the scripts for these shows, approaching them with the sensibility of someone who lived in the 1920s. He knows the events that are coming in history afterwards, but he has this certain sensibility towards the characters and the situations. He never looks down on them. There's no pretentiousness in any of his writing. He just writes it in this clear-cut way, and it's very classical.
The storylines are becoming a little too coincidental for me, but I love the characters so much I can't turn away. See it.
Downton Abbey continues to fascinate, and with a compelling new storyline for Anna, I was hooked from the get-go. See it.
Downton Abbey is not immune to problems any television show can have, but season 4 is compelling drama, so it's a see it.
Cheers!
Is Lady Mary an uptown girl in a Downton world?
Ooh.
Holiday bloodletting brings your family closer together.
Yes, you have something to talk about at Christmas.
I like how Kevin mumbled it.
It's Kevin's fault.
Don't tell me, I wish I knew. I know that's gonna call up. I'm gonna have to say.
I'm not gonna drink to that.
Acorn TV, proud sponsor of Just Seen It, offers hundreds of hours of British mysteries, dramas, and comedies, streaming commercial-free on demand. Learn more at acorn.tv/PTV.